Hey there, welcome to Hobie on YouTube. I'd like to talk about Remington bullet knife posters. I only own a couple and we'll go over those in a minute, but the reason for this video really is because I came across a great article on Remington bullet knife posters recently entitled "The Knife Was the Hero" by Art Wheaton. It appeared in the October 21st, 2022 Sporting Classics Daily. Anyway, I'll put a link to that in the description of this video so you can go read that article if you're interested. And it's just full of a lot of amazing facts about this series of posters. But the first bullet knife poster appeared in 1982 when Remington introduced their first bullet knife replica. And I think it was really to promote the knife. You could buy the knife, but most of the knives at that time I think were just given away free as a promotion with the purchase of one of their Model 4 or 6 rifles. But in 1982 they commissioned Larry Duke, who was a renowned sporting outdoors artist, to do the first poster. And he produced A Bad Time for a Snag, and I'll put it up on the screen there. And it depicts 4 trappers or guides or hunters or just outdoorsmen coming down the river through the rapids, 2 pairs in each 2 canoes, and one of the canoes has gotten a line caught on a snag and is about to turn over, and the other guys are presenting the knife and trying to cut the line and free them from the snag so they don't turn over with the trophy rack and everything else you see there. So full of action and really cool, and as you can see, the knife was the hero. In 1982, Remington really had no plans to make, first of all, I don't think they had any plans to make the bullet knife an annual release, and they certainly didn't have plans to put out a poster every year. So in 1983, when they put out a bullet knife, they just used the same poster over again, or the same painting, Bad Time for a Snag, on a folding circular, I think, that went with the knife. So there wasn't really any poster for 1983, although about 10 years later I think they did have Larry Duke come back and paint something to kind of fill in that gap. And so what he produced was a break in the action, and I'll put it up there on the screen as well. And it actually depicts the same 4 guys you saw in A Bad Time for a Snag. Now they're further down the river, free of the rapids. They've pulled over to the bank. They're obviously a little bit in distress. They've built a fire to dry out, warm up. One of them has a broken arm and is being splinted. All this going on while a bear apparently is approaching them from across the river. So never a dull moment. But it's really cool. I really love these posters. I've always loved this type of, like I call it Western art, where it depicts, cowboys or Indians or frontiersmen or hunters, trappers, mountain men, whatever, in action, doing something. And, where these posters excel is they tell a story, which is, I think, really fascinating. The more you look at them, kind of the more that you can pick up. So the last poster, I think Larry Duke did 15 of 16 posters. And the last poster was put out in 1997, and it was entitled Cut and Run. I'll put it up on the screen. And here you can see there's been a train derailment uphill, a logging train. Cars come off, the logs have come free. They're spilled down the hill. One of them is threatening to crush a man, and his friend's trying to hold it off of him. The guy's pant leg is caught on the snag, and he's using his knife to free himself. So again, the knife is the hero. It's interesting that Remington, when they commissioned these posters, they stressed that they did not, number one, want any blood. They also did not want the knife depicted as a weapon or being used, even really in self-defense against an animal or anything like that. So in all the posters, you'll see someone using their knife to free themselves or somehow get themselves out of a bad situation. So I said Larry Duke did 15 of the 16 posters. It's interesting, but in 1988, when Remington contacted him, or near 1988, to do the 88 poster, he was on vacation or something and didn't get their correspondence. Not hearing back from him, Remington went ahead and commissioned Bruce Wolfe, another outdoor artist, and he produced a Pack of Trouble. I'll put that up on the screen. So this is the only bullet knife poster of the 16 that was not painted by Larry Duke. And you can see the difference in the style of artwork there. And what Bruce Wolfe is depicting there is a trapper, checking his trap down at the river. It looks like he's got a basket of fish he's caught up on the bank, and a badger or a wolverine or something, I don't have it in front of me, is trying to get into his catch. So, Pack of Trouble. Pretty neat. All right, let's take a look at the two bullet knife posters I own, and I just have them propped up against the wall here in poster frames that have these acrylic sheets in front of the posters. So they're nice and flat, but I'm fighting glare and lighting issues here. If you want clear images of these paintings or posters, just Google them online. You can find the images of every year's poster online and see it probably clearer than you can here. But these are the full-size posters, and the one on the left there is the 1996 effort of Larry Duke entitled Knot in the Plan, not spelled K-N-O-T. And it was to introduce the Trailhand bullet knife, which was a replica of Remington's six-bladed camp knife there that you can see at the bottom. I bought this poster because while I don't have the replica, I do have the original. And I thought, well, wow, how often do you have a knife that has a poster for it? So I need to go ahead and get that poster. I want to mention a couple of things about these Remington humpback campers while I have it here in front of you. Number one, they never had the long full cartridge bullet shield that all the other bullet knives do. So I'm not really sure why Remington included it in the lineup to call bullet knives and bring back as a replica, but they did. And they produced it with both the round shield like this and the full bullet inlay. So you can get them both ways. This knife was never called the Trailhand. None of these old Remington bullet knives that they brought back and gave names really had names, I think. This one was simply model number R3843, so they were kind of known by their model numbers, and they might have been referred to as bullet knives, but this one certainly was never called the Trailhand. And you got to wonder, why would a Trailhand, need a knife with a cap lifter and a screwdriver and a corkscrew, right? But anyway, it's a great poster, and the story that it tells, I envision, is that these two guys, these two older campers, outfitters, horsemen, whatever, have been awakened in the middle of the night. If you look really closely here between the horse's legs back there, you can see their old canvas tent. And they've been awakened by either the dog barking, the horses braying, but they've come stumbling out of the tent in a half-dressed state to find a rapidly approaching forest fire threatening the horses, freaking out the horses. This guy's suspenders are still down, and his boots are, maybe spurs are unbuckled. This guy back here is barefoot. So they just come out of the tent to find this going on, and they've got to free the horses. They've got them tied to a line here where they can just yank the tethers, I guess, but this one's knotted up. So the guy has fished out his pocket knife, and he's cutting the line to free the horses. So again, the knife saves the day. The things you can find on these posters, they usually say at the top, Remington brings back, and then the Trailhand bullet knife. And down here below, you can see Remington in the corner, but also right under the painting itself is Larry Duke's signature reproduced. And then over here will be the title, Not in the Plan. And on the paintings themselves will be Larry Duke's signature. Here it is. It's very hard to see. And that's where you'll find the date as well. And that one actually says 1990, 600 if you could read that. Now it's interesting, Larry Duke used to put himself in some of these paintings, much like Norman Rockwell would, or in movies like Alfred Hitchcock or Stan Lee in the Marvel movies, right? So I don't know if he's either of these guys. If he is, he would have to be this one in the back here, because this man in the front is a likeness of Tommy Milner, who was president and CEO of Remington at the time. Isn't that cool? So that's something I found out reading that excellent article, and it just makes, to me, the poster even more special. Okay, the last one here on the right is the 1994 bullet knife poster by Larry Duke entitled Times a Wastin' Son, and it was to introduce the camp bullet knife, which was Remington's replica of the R42-43, which was their large camp knife. Now, while I've had that replica before, the actual silver bullet ones with the bone handles and the sterling silver shield inlays, I had sold them both when I saw this poster being offered for $20 shipped. And I thought, well, I no longer have the knife, but heck, I still collect camp knives, and what a great poster this is. So I went ahead and bought the poster, and then I went out and bought just a straight up replica, the ones with the Delrin handles. So just kind of the regular production 1994 bullet knife replica. And it's a fine knife. It's large, as you can see. I'll open it up here in a minute and show you the knife, but I'm holding the camera with my other hand right now, so I really can't manipulate the knife, but we'll come back to that. But what I see going on here is a father and a son. You know, they're out in the woods. They've obviously been camping or fishing or something. Here's a backpack over here. You know, here's man's best friend, their faithful dog. There's a basket back there, a pail, a tin cup, got a lantern and a tarp down here. But anyway, they've been caught out in the weather. Here comes a storm, the lightning on the opposing hill there, dark clouds rolling in. And so it looks like the father is instructing his son to build an emergency shelter, a lean-to. And if they're going to use the tarp there, I guess they might make it in time. There you can see the boy using the knife. And actually it's a pretty good depiction of the knife if you look at the blade. Skinning down a pole, you know, to finish up the lean-to. I get a kick out of this poster for a couple of reasons. You know, with this going on, you know, the kid looks a little frightened. You know, obviously time's of the essence. Dad's got time to light up the pipe and have a smoke. You know, the steady hand of your father, he's, you know, whatever. But the other thing I think is the time would be better spent maybe moving away from that tall tree with that lightning going on and moving to lower ground. But you know, it's just a romanticized depiction of a father and a son out in the wilderness. And again, the knife is being a very useful tool in saving the day. Now, remember I mentioned Larry Duke often put himself in these paintings or likenesses of his friends or associates. And here's something that's pretty special about this poster that I found out in reading the article. The father is a likeness of Woody Wheaton. He was a registered Maine guide for 68 years, very well known, and he owned and operated the Wheaton Lodge, which attracted a lot of guests that were, you know, in the sportsman's community, writers and such. And the boy is his son Art. One and the same as the author of the article I keep referring to, The Knife Was the Hero. So how cool is that? Like the other, here's a couple things on the poster. At the top, Remington brings back the camp bullet knife. And then down here, we can see it says Remington. At this point, it was Remington DuPont. And over here, there's the likeness of the knife. Here's the title, Times a Wastin' Son, and there's Larry Duke's signature on the painting with the date 1993, which I guess is the date he actually painted it, but it was for the release of the 1994 bullet knife. I promised you a look at the knife, so here it is. You can see it has a very long saber ground clip point blade with a long nail pull. It's got a sheep's foot in the front. It's a secondary blade also with a long pull. Oversized screwdriver cap lifter and a very long flat sharpened awl or punch. It does have the full cartridge inlay there, nickel silver bolsters, brass liners, and Delrin handles. These replicas can be had, and they're fairly inexpensive. However, the originals command several $100s. That's why I don't have one of those. And there are some important differences between the originals and the replicas. One of the tools is completely different. But you can look at some of my other videos if you want to learn a little bit more about that. This has run long, so I just want to say to you guys, thank you. I appreciate your viewership and support. And as always, have fun collecting.